see just how young most of you are. Okay? Now I'm going to ask a question, and you guys are dispensed from it, okay? Because it would not be fair to you. But everyone else will see. Okay? How many of you growing up, having heard this proclaimed in churches for 1,000 years, and probably in church school, Bible school, whatever, heard the phrase uttered, "Stop turning my Father's house into a den of thieves"? How many of you remember that translation? Would you raise your hand higher? Okay, as opposed to marketplace? Okay? This is an example where the literal translation is what is today read. Because the phrase in Greek, and I don't remember much Greek, okay? The old phrase, I used to know a little Greek when she got married. But that's an old joke. The one phrase in Greek I do remember, literally it means place of commerce. Okay, so if you translate the phrase literally, that's what was said. That's not what was meant. The people who translated the King James Version and the corresponding Roman Catholic edition at that time, the Douay Rheims, translated into den of thieves. They understood intent. They understood what was being played out in front of them, what the context was, and it made sense. It goes something like this, okay? First of all, a lot of people have trouble with the passage because they don't like the idea of Jesus being angry. We're all comfortable with the sweet, loving, forgiving, wonderful Jesus, okay? It was a gentle Jesus, meek and mild, as that poem used to go a long time ago. But this is a political statement. This is an act of outrage. This is an act of rebellion. It probably wasn't seen by all that many because remember how huge the temple in Jerusalem was. I mean, take the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. It's about 2.5 size. That's the size. It's a huge complex. So one little incident in one little corner probably wasn't going to attract all that much attention, but it certainly would have gotten the attention of those who didn't want trouble. So like Gandhi or Dr. King, this is a political statement. This is his march to Selma, in a sense, because this is what gets him on the radar for those who are ultimately going to kill him. What you see is a display of righteous anger. And it's about a system that was completely filled with fraud and injustice. Let me explain a little bit how the temple system worked, okay? First of all, you're a Jewish male. You're a guy. At some point in your life, you are required to go to Jerusalem once and offer sacrifice at the temple. That was a religious obligation. Now, if you're a woman, you were invited to do so, you were welcome to do so, they wanted you to do so, but there was no moral obligation. To a man, there was. Think of people living in poverty. It took years to save up enough money to make the trip. Because not only are you making the trip, you're going to hear about all the other expenses involved, including who's going to take care of your farm when you're away. Now, think about that. We're talking about poor people who basically live from hand to mouth. Forget about, paycheck to paycheck. It's day to day. So you save for this journey, and you get to Jerusalem, and now you come to the temple, and the first thing you have to do is you have to pay the temple tax, which is something they all had to pay for the support of the temple. And the temple tax was 2 days' wages. All right, so think of how much you make in 2 days. Think of being poor, and how long it takes, and how you can't afford to give that up. But that's your obligation to give to the temple. But there's a problem. The problem is, look at the money that you're carrying, okay? What do we have on our coins? Right? Who's on the board? Of course, okay? We put our political leaders on coins. There's 2 types of coinage within the Roman Empire. Either the Roman denarius or the Greek drachma. No matter what type of coin it was, it has somebody's picture on it. It was either a picture of an emperor or his wife, or if he was really daring, his mistress. We find some of those too, actually. A picture of a god or goddess, all sorts of things. But what is the first commandment that was read this morning? I am the Lord your God, you shall have no graven images. Okay? You don't bring that dirty money into God's temple. But don't worry about it. We have people who will give you proper money. Okay? And there was set up booths for changing money. You would take your real money, bring it to the booth, and you would get temple money back. And temple money was clean because it had no graven image on it. And it would say whatever the value was. But of course, you have to, obviously leave a little gift there for the service that you've received. So, as far as we know, perhaps it's not just 50% interest was charged on how much you gave. So think of it as $100 turning in and getting $50 back. Now, I don't know what you folk call it, but with my half Sicilian background, My family would refer to that as loan sharking. Okay. That was what was done. All right, now it gets better. So now you've got temple money. So now what you have to do is you have to bring your animal for sacrifice. And look at this. For your convenience, within the very first space and time, as you walk into the temple, the first courtyard, which is referred to as the court of the Gentiles, they had these booths set up so you could purchase an animal for sacrifice. You could buy a lamb, buy doves, whatever it was. Okay? Think of the Yankee Stadium Citi Field principle. When you go to a ballpark, how much do you pay for a hot dog and a beer? Yeah, too much, exactly. Thank you. All right. Yeah, it's the same principle. Whatever it normally would cost you, think of the temple cost for a lamb and for an exorbitant amount. But don't worry, okay? Not only do we possibly sell you the lamb, we will do something else. You can BYOL. Bring your own lamb. Okay? You can bring your lamb to sacrifice, but because it's being offered in sacrifice to God, we don't give God junk. So your lamb has to be inspected by the temple lamb inspectors. And the temple lamb inspectors will go through it for any spot, any blemish, any possible imperfection. And if you passed inspection, you could offer that in sacrifice. You know what your odds of passing inspection were? About the same odds I have for pitching for the Mets. He never passed. The system was completely and utterly corrupt. And a lot of people were making a lot of money on the backs of those who were utterly hopeless and helpless to do anything about it. And then the final insult, to me, one of the most grievous ones, it has to do with where it all took place. The temple complex is this huge facility divided into courtyards. And depending upon who or what you were, that's as far as you were allowed to go. So there was the courtyard of the Gentiles, the courtyard of women, the courtyard of Israel, which was really the courtyard of men, but they didn't say that. They just said it was Israel, like the women didn't count. The holy place, which is where the priests were, and of course the Holy of Holies, which is where the presence of God was presumed to be, where the high priest could only go once or twice a year. The court of the Gentiles was the first courtyard where everybody walked through. It was the only place, if you were not Jewish, you could stop for prayer, for reflection, if you were a seeker, if you were just needing time away. Think of what it is to try to pray when you've got nothing but sound going on around you, because you've got the money being exchanged, you've got all these animals being sold, animals make noise, not to mention, watch where you step, animals make other things too. Okay? That was the setting, and that is what Jesus reacted to. It was a matter of injustice. It was a matter of taking something that was intended to be good and holy and turning it into a commercial enterprise that exploited their own people. And the Scriptures has a word for that. It's called idolatry. Idolatry is very simple by definition. You worshiping anything that should be used and using God who should be worshipped. That's the definition of idolatry. So what Jesus is saying is that don't make yourself an idol over things that should be used. It's not that money was evil, or not that commerce of itself was evil. That wasn't the point. But when money or commerce is used to exploit people, then it is evil. Now, this is not a history lesson. I don't care about history. What I care about is your journey through Lent. Take a good hard look into your heart and souls. What are the idols that we worship? Who are the idols we worship? What is so important in our lives that really it has the ultimate priority? When I was a very young priest, a long time ago, I used to work on youth retreats, and there was an exercise we used to do with the kids that I always found fascinating. It was more telling than anything else that was ever said in a discussion. And the exercise went like this. In the middle of the night, your mom or dad wakes you up screaming, there's a fire. You grab one thing and run out of the house. What is it? How those kids answered the question is an amazing testimony to what is the priority in their lives. And I would dare to say, I'm not making fun of the kids. If I did that with adults, I bet your answers would speak an awful lot about what you truly worship. Lent is about looking at the idols that we create and casting them down. It's about looking into our heart and soul and realizing, where have I strayed from the path I should be walking on? So as we come to the end of Lent, and you approach Easter, remember no stuff there. There's no one